The final two paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence consider the damaged relations between America and Britain, explore the implications of independence and sovereignty, and declare a new chapter in the history books. The second-to-last paragraph justifies the breaking of bonds between British citizens. Prior to the Revolution, many colonists considered themselves to be the most patriotic of British subjects. They fought in wars on behalf of the British Empire, cherished the British government as the most just and free in the world, and often proudly displayed items celebrating the British King George III. As a result, the Declaration's grievances focus largely on the colonists' shock at their treatment by the British government. The second-to-last paragraph details the colonists' hurt at how their fellow Britons viewed them. The colonists had attempted to reach their fellow citizens, appealing to their common understanding of political rights, their shared history in England, and their economic and cultural ties. Yet their British brethren had ignored the voice of justice and of consanguinity. The last sentence asserts the consequence. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity, which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. No longer were Americans and Britons siblings. They were enemies at war. Perhaps they could one day be friends at peace. The final paragraph turns toward the realities of independence, both international and domestic. It grounds the authoring body's assembly in the human and spiritual world, and reminds readers that Congress is empowered by the people, who have authorized their representatives to act on their behalf. This clearly separates the United States from nations with governments created by military conquest or inherited through divine right. As a result, all political connection to the British Crown was dissolved, and the new government assumed the rights held by sovereign nations, including the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, but also to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. The first four powers reserved to the new government were responsibilities previously held by the British King and Parliament, who declared war and signed treaties on behalf of British subjects across the globe, often without consulting those most affected by battles and peace terms. The new Congress would negotiate trade agreements in the best interests of American merchants, and it was quick to do so. Americans understood that they could not fight or win a war against Britain without allies and their armies and navies. In the weeks after signing the Declaration, Congress approved a model treaty, drafted by John Adams, to guide negotiations over trade agreements, and dispatched Benjamin Franklin to Paris to seek French aid, which would later be critical to winning the war. The list of powers is largely externally focused and preoccupied with how the new United States would interact with other nations. But in domestic matters, it is much fuzzier. This was because the Declaration first had to resolve a fundamental question. What was this new nation? Was it a confederation loosely held together, or one new union? In 1776, Congress used the language, "United Colonies are," not "United States is." The signers of the Declaration mutually pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to one another, which was a powerful emotional bond, but not legally binding or permanent. This rhetoric suggests that most delegates saw the nation as an alliance of states, rather than the creation of one new nation. In 1787, the Constitution began to shift that thinking, When delegates gathered in Philadelphia to create a new system, they were determined to increase and centralize the powers of the federal government. In other words, they moved away from a gathering of states and toward one union. Finally, the Declaration recognizes the people as the ultimate shapers of power on Earth and acknowledges that humans were error-prone, even when acting with the best of intentions. The Declaration appeals to a higher power to confirm that Congress was acting with the best principles as their guiding light, and for its protection in the storms to come. Since 1776, moments of American progress, the Reconstruction Amendments, women's suffrage, and civil rights were inspired by the promises contained in the Declaration. While the United States has not yet fully lived up to the principles proclaimed in the Declaration, America's founding principles have stood the test of time.